probably the biggest concentration. It would have been 76.
Yeah.
And I was invited to do some lighting at the Pram Factory back theatre by Barry Dickens. And he was doing a play with 4 other playwrights. And among the other playwrights was Eric Beach did a short play, Stephen Mastair, Gig Ryan, and somebody else, can't remember who they all were.
Yeah, but Eric did a short play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he also did some odd bits of concrete poems.
Later on.
Later on.
Which I didn't know about until we found it in the book.
That side of Eric I didn't know either.
Yeah, well, not something he did a lot of.
Okay, but
yeah, so I met Eric, and Eric said, "Oh, why don't you come to a barbecue? There's a whole lot of poets getting together down at Rosemary Nisson's place down in Beaumaris." So at that stage I was working as a carpenter, and I had this van, which was like a closed furniture van back kind of thing. And a whole lot of people decided they needed a lift, which included Pio and Yelchi and Eric, and they all hopped in the back of the van. And I remember Yelchi saying that it was like they were gorillas or something. They were sort of in the back of this van.
An art attack.
An art attack, yeah. So we went down and had a nice time at the barbecue, and there was a bit of reading going on. I think Billy Marshall was down there, Neil Murray, a few other people. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of energy around. I think all those people had just kind of gotten together, really, around that time.
Now, Lynn, what was your first connection to poetry here in Melbourne?
I'd say it was about 1978 when I did a degree in literature at VUT. John McLaren was the head of department then, and he was into all the poets that I'd started reading, like Eric Beach, Pio, ACR, Yelchi, Mel Morgan, and the list goes on.
Yes. Now, there are other poets on the scene.
Yeah, well, what can I say? Eric Beach, fine poet, can write anything really. Yeah, I was very interested in people like Eric when I first got on the scene, because they were like seemingly simple writers, but not really simple at all. Like quite, well, you know Eric, he's quite an intellectual.
In 1977, Eric Beach wrote an open letter to Australian poets regarding the genesis and development of the Australian Poets Union.
People in Performance, a 3CR program broadcasting quality performance of music and the spoken word.
You're listening to Melbourne's Community Radio, 837 3CR.
Melbourne poet Eric Beach recorded live at Montsalvat 81. The poems are La Mama, Chauvinist Talk, and songs like Rivers and Running Streets. Certain words in the poems have been edited out. If you listen carefully, you will hear the exclamations of an interjector and the audience reaction in the background.
This is a satire on local poets. It's called La Mama. Shelvin Lee, it's Old Thighs and Eyes. Old Dog Eye and Dead Horse. Reading poetry with a whiskey voice. Sunday night, drunk on applause. Afterwards, he snores. Meantime, it's and money in the hat. And Jeffrey Eggleston, the gnome of Carlton, on a 10-speed cyclic history somewhere between Johnny's Green Room and Tierra del Fuego. The poem's thick, the poet dense, his back turned to the audience. Half of them leave and half of them go to Johnny's Green Room or Tierra del Fuego. And Pio's popping the mic and someone yells, I can't make out the words too well. Don't you care that we can't hear? And Pio says, no, I don't want to communicate, I just want to express myself. And here's Ken Smeaton, a keen man on safari, and poor Tom, the street poet, shouting Mata Hari, Doppelganger, Hawaiian Burger, Marie the hairy canary, completely extempore, wow how bow how, regurgitatum ad nauseum sum humor. And now this academic, he doesn't deserve a name, accepting a grant from the Literature Board when he doesn't need the money, he needs the fame. He thinks poetry's a branch of anthropology. He's brought back the latest from New Guinea. He's doing the dance of the headless chook. Barry Dickens is shouting, the hook, the hook. Barry Dickens helped on stage, his hand to his brow. He's got the audience rioting now, so what does he do? 5 minutes ago I had a car accident, and now I'm different. And, taken off the poet who went before, Self, Part 4. A gig for Melbourne's Patti Smith. She weaves, she's pissed, she spins, she's stoned, she's independent and on the phone. She's creating a no man's land out there. She's fighting the fight against underwear, a colourful life in a monotone. And finally the open section, mystery cliches, breeziness, treasiness, a lost soul in Nidri, footloose in Footscray, on the only one alone. This is my book, published by my auntie. My birth is my nascence, my life's out on loan, my death's overdue. Where appropriate, groan. This is called chauvinist talk. Take off your eyebrows, they're too threatening. Make your mouth wet and red. Invite me in for a coffee. I want you, I want you. Why aren't you flattered? Take off your clothes at once and prove you're not a man-hater. Show me your nylon movies. Let me be innocent at your breast. But leave on your sexy brassiere. Be my fantasy. I love you, I love you. You're so smooth, so soft, so gooey. In the morning I'll borrow your razor. I don't know what's happening to me. Have you ever tried to shave a jelly? I'm sorry. Okay, this one's alright. Songs like rivers and running streets. Down Doggerel Lane, up Limerick Alley. Holes in my shoes I'm wet through. I walk on trochaic feet and desert boots, despondent in spondays and suede, past the phallic shadows of fire hydrants. A bus goes by like a well-lit graveyard. From bar to bar I sink into the music, wearing the sheets of rain about me, dripping light onto the floors of the bloodhouse, flipping the tunes and coins from my pockets. The moon's in my cigarette packet. I play jazz with my buttons, unzip stovepipe pants and steam against a drainpipe flute.
People in Performance, a 3CR program broadcasting quality performance of music and the spoken word.
Alright, can you give me a bit of a rundown of his background? Where he came from, how you got to Melbourne, how you got involved in better if you look at me, yes.
Okay, well, I grew up in a small town in New Zealand in a road full of state houses, so it was the Maori people that I used to go fishing with because they always sing as well as talk, and they have a great sense of theatre because of the marae where they stand up and pronounce upon things. And that's really early age. And then I guess one of my grandfathers, he was a box early on, and he saved enough money to be a beekeeper. He used to take us out on the honey truck singing. He used to be a ventriloquist and a piano player and a singer, and yeah, so he used to play in the Napier Frivolity minstrels. My other granddad, he was a gold miner till he was 50. He was still being a published poet when he was 90 in the local Reglan Arts newspaper, so that was where I used to find books by, say, Edgar Allan Poe, or The Raven, or The Tintinabulation of the Bells of Vachel Lindsay's The Congo. So I had two strains, and I think I've always been involved in theatre ever since, so that when I got older I worked with painters and musicians and theatre workers because they can all work together in theatre. So I guess I always had that involvement with performing this stuff and thinking that singing and dancing and all that were all mixed up together. And I never thought about this until much later on, why I kept on going in that vein. But I was talking to Faye Zwicky, she's Jewish, and she was saying, yes, well that's why I love the singing, and that's why I have the lyric poet piece of me coming out all the time, because the Jewish people always sing and dance as well, so that was the beginnings of it all, I guess.
Billy Marshall Stone King, you might have remembered the ABC television show Stringer. Well, Billy wrote that with of Australia's performance poets. This guy is Mr. Performance, Eric Beach. When he finally makes it.
Billy and I are going to do one together. Do you want to buckle at the knees, Billy? I'm the idiot, and he's the authority figure. Look, it's from a place I worked in Hobart called Woolacourt, retarded people, and we spent 5 hours with one bloke trying to understand what he said.
A boat trip?
A bus trip?
No.
A boat trip?
Yeah, a boat trip. Anything?
Saturday?
No.
Thursday?
No.
Tuesday?
No. Anything.
8 days.
Yes.
8 days?
No. Oak.
Yeah, that's Coke.
Yes, oak on a bar.
Hmm?
Oak on a bar.
Coke on a boat trip?
Coke on a boat trip. Yes, on anything.
Coke on a boat trip on Saturday.
Excellent.
Next year?
Yes, anything.
January?
Yes.
Coke on a... in January.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Billy. No, that's a true story, and the bloke I wrote that with got up and did it with me, so, okay. This owes a lot to the Reverend Worthy in his talkback. Hello? Are you there? It's you? Well, I'm just out of prison. Uh-huh. And I can't get a job? Uh-huh. And I steal to get money? Uh-huh. And I wonder if you could do anything to help me? Uh-huh. You do have the unemployment, the unemployment benefit, I mean. It doesn't. I see. I'm on drugs. I see. They want me to go on a program. They can be very good at helping you with your problem. But I've got nowhere to put my animals. I see. I've got 3 cats and a dog. Uh-huh. Right now I've got no money for pet food. That we can do something about. Burning books, millionaire crooks, Berlin Wall, here still, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl. Don't worry. It's gone, mate. Gone. Nagon Street. Lygon Street, Nagon Street. Carlton Cemetery's asleep. She says she's fine. Don't know much about her life. Doesn't seem too interested in mine. Lygon Street, Nagon Street. Hello, Pizza Head. Why, hi, raw meat. She says she's fine. Needs time. Hope your life's upbeat. There's not all that much happening in mine. Lygon Street, Nagon Street. Walking past Delmonico's, Joe put a sign. Luigi Pinarelli, $274 owed. He got back his debts. I can't collect mine. Lygon Street, Nagon Street. These streets were ours, now they're not mine. Me? Fine, thanks, fine. Watson's checked out the Tribune. No more poetry in the Albion. Lygon Street, Nagon Street. No fish and chip shop, no cheap wine. It's only too easy to get out of line. No more vacant lot for sleeping off time. Lygon Street, Nagon Street. King and Godfrey's, 5 and dime. Wine? She says she's fine. Don't know much about her life. She doesn't seem too interested in mine. Where were you on the day that John Kennedy died? On the day that John Kennedy died, Sis did her shorthand to the wireless while we played cricket down the side. Dad was at the hedge with secateurs on the day that John Kennedy died. Mum had just racked up the baking. She knew that we'd soon all drift inside. Dad was back in Clydesdales at the races on the day that John Kennedy died. The Pauls and the Evanses were playing the Greggles, street soccer, 11-a-side. And I have to say that that game kept on going on the day that John Kennedy died. And I thought of the Sunday we hit from the church bus. It had double back wheels just wide enough to steal the soccer ball from us. That's what I thought about, the day the Baptist bus stole the soccer ball, on the day that John Kennedy died. Mrs. McPhee had a TV. We watched the Flintstones at 5:30. Then we turned it off and went home for tea on the day that John Kennedy died. But those been on the booze, been on the sauce, got those jump on whiskey whores, stop this buck, got those jump blues, I'm feeling bad, it's no joke, got those jump blues, rum and coke, heart starter, got those jump blues, been on the booze, been on the slop, got those jump blues, I met the cops, got the drunk tank, got those jump blues, be on the wrong car, indecent exposure, got those jump blues, got a blue E, just a blue oh, got those jump blues. I gotta quit. I'm the man who talks the truth. Call me crazy, call me mad, lock me up, I must be bad. Ask me questions, tap my knees, give me pills and turn the key. They don't know what I'm about. Doctors have to let me out. Who? Me? I'm the man who talks to trees. I met the man who went beep beep. I met a man who hated sheep. I met a pacifist in uniform shouting down the pub last night, if you hang around with magpies, you better paint yourself black and white, but I'm alright. Who? Me? I'm the man who talks to the truth. I eat ice creams at the beach. Too much liquor, I'm a streaker. Buzz by blowies, hear them screech. A flower. A nuke moustache is military, but I don't fight, I'm alright. Me? I'm the man who talks to... You're sincerely, I am merely, it's me again, and I remain deepest regards, Ernest Lee. We need to set me free. Not too bright. I'm alright. Who? Me. I'm the man who talks to trains.
Well, thank you very much, Eric Beach. Nobody says he ever looks his best, but
I got to Australia when I was 24, and my first job that I got paid for was in a design class, Les Cossacks, up at the RMIT, 72, so I've still always managed to get jobs outside the area of writing and be a poet, so I think maybe being a poet has been a traveller in all those fields. You know, you've got your bag of books, but you don't even need them. You can. A lot of people have it in their heads, so they can cart it around. They're very portable. I think Shelton Lee was the first storytelling poet that I met here, and he had a very big influence on me to begin with. And then got involved. I've always been involved in working class areas, so I ended up working in Footscray a lot, and that way I got jobs with people like the elderly citizens clubs, schools. Always try to get into other kinds of institutions like prisons or intellectually disabled handicap centres. After a while I started wanting to work with other people, so I started up a thing called the Mobile Poetry Workshop, where we went out to schools originally in South Australia. We went to prisons, and the people who came through that, like Rory Harris, Joanne Burns, Chris Smythe, Ken Smeaton, once or twice, Anya Volkovich, once or twice. They're all still working, Jenny Bolt, and they're all still breaking into institutions on their own account, so it was a really good starting place, and that was partly because of my involvement with theatre. I'd done plays at Pram Factory, and they were the ones that first gave us some money to start off the mobile poetry workshop, and we sort of used their promotional machine as well. So it's good, you know, if you can find a host institution. I found out that if you make up your own institution like the Poets Union, then other institutions find it easier to deal with you than if you're an individual trying to break in.
You've done a lot of work with kids. How important has it been in encouraging them to go to poetry, your attitude as a performer?
A lot, because part of their performance is part of the workshop process, and it's really great when you're at a primary school and you get the kids saying at playtime, "Guess what I'm going to do at playtime, Eric? Write poetry." So that's breaking it down from how you learned it at school, where it was a kind of terror or a chore. Now you do a poem, you don't write your own. And I learned off them too, you know, I pinch things off them, because I do.
It's where you perform a lot of this stuff, don't you?
Yeah, but it's good.
All right, Eric, what about your work patterns? How do you go about your writing process?
Well, I earn most of my money through doing workshops with performances. So the material there. And then you have to go back to the old chore of getting yourself in a room and seeing what's going to happen to it, because it all changes into something else. So part of it's the travelling and collecting material. That's from early days too, when I had to work on the railways, I guess. So you get things, snatches of what people say, and then the other part, slam that door, becomes poetry somehow, if you're lucky.
All right, take a break. You got involved with the nightclub poets? How you come up with the name?
Well, I've been working with all the poets in nightclub poetry, so we work with each other and we break into other kind of venues where we're not necessarily the only act, the poets. So a poet can get up and stand up against a bagpipe player or a saxophone player or a stand-up comic and survive on stage. And that was the idea of nightclub poetry, is to get up there and say, this is all entertainment. You're not coming here to suffer poetry or endure poetry or to come to poetry as something holier than thou, but merely to be entertained. And then it depends on the individual poet or poem as to how great the poetry is. I've heard Jeffrey Eggleston telling me that we're a murdering culture, but then he wasn't in the show, so it might have been bad, just griping. But yeah, that's about it. It's just to show that it's a venue where people can come and be entertained and smoke and drink and talk. And well, Breck said that about his early plays. That's what he wanted people to do. The trouble with theatres these days is you can't smoke. They have sprinkler systems. So nightclubs are the ideal place.
Both yourself and Chaz use your voice a lot with sound. How's it come about doing that?
By mimicking people. I mean, yeah, well, like jazz, I love jazz. And so I always work with musicians, and so it's partly that, because you're bouncing off them, and it's partly that you mimic people, and they might be, as you say, young kids, and it's the way they say things that really has the effect, and not exactly what they're saying, it's how you put it into a context. Like that 3-year-old blues I do, where the first phrase was, "The man will come." And I love blues, and I just thought that was a blues, and then pinched a whole lot of lines off 3-year-olds and strung them together, but it was the sound and the music and the way they chant. So,
Eric, can you tell me what you think the future of poetry scene is in Melbourne, and particularly in relation to performance?
there are a lot of poets in Melbourne at the moment who are working with musicians. Some poets whose styles I don't normally like, say like Adrian Rawlins, because they're foreign to me, or I find them old-fashioned. I find him up with an Argy, which is a wonderful jazz band, White Tiger by Kenneth Rexroth, and blowing me over with a full volume jazz piece which has something to do with the way it sounds as well as the way the words make a pattern. And I think a lot of poets are moving into theatre. I see Anya Volwich's piece has been picked up by Antle and made into a theatre piece for more than one person. I see a lot of that happening with poets' poems. They're using choruses, they're using responses, and some of that is pretty cornball and some of it's really good.
Tell me a bit then about the time you spent in Hobart and what you were doing there.
Well, I swapped one of my jobs at the University of Tasmania to go out to Wollacott, which is in the news at the moment, because they're finding women with maggots in their vaginas and things like that. So the best thing I got out of Hobart was working with the intellectually disabled people. Sometimes we had one guy who was mute, but he came along to every poetry workshop and talked in sign language, and we got a poem out of him. We had another bloke who couldn't speak properly. We've got one poem where a group of us spent hours translating one phrase, and all those people started talking. One woman who wouldn't write now writes. She writes me letters. There's the mute guy does a lot more sign language than he used to. The other people, one bloke died from the time I was away and the time I came back, 3 months. But he told us the story on the last day that we were leaving. I work with a lot of other people there. I work with kids who are incest victims, and the thing about them again is that a story that came out that they couldn't really say, you know, to other people, but it came out in a poem. In fact, they were really shocked that they were allowed to say it, because a lot of them had the lid put down on it, maybe by family, by expectations of their peers. But that was sort of a big release for people too. The thing with the workshops with ordinary people, or you know, from anywhere, is I got such a wide range of classes and ages, and they all off each other, and they're still running a writing workshop together, you know, with not needing me. So yeah, I like it. It's a small enough place to get round.
Thanks, Eric. I think that's probably got us covered.
Next cab off the rank, who I'm sure is a favoured poet among a heck of a lot of us, is young Mr. Eric Beach. We cannot consider him to be anything else but highly radical. I always have to pull the mic down a little. Evolution. I've worked it out. I come from an ape which laid an egg. It's all there in the fossils, the missing link, the famous egg-laying ape, which became extinct because it couldn't stop crossing the road. Evolution's taught me pigs can fly. Black stars eat space. A quasar is God turned inside out. We all come from a big bang. The universe's hairline is receding from a single point, which probably explains why we're forced to watch the fate of our world be decided by one sick and now almost extinct bald-headed eagle screaming red, white and blue murder at a bear. Losing poems. Males will try and save dried sweat of a working summer, ice in a hot bath, or try to get a better deal by trading your old love in on an old model, on a new model. But when a bag of poems goes missing on the plane or maybe the taxi, well, you try to make a sky from scraps in puddles. Ever tried to reread carbon paper? A few good lines shored up by friendship, but you're living on a rapidly eroding coast. New poems coming in, flashing white teeth. Time goes begging. You think of everything you lost in corridors, rooms that once seemed important, where you failed suicide. Finally, you chase up those good love poems. Only the lady was unsentimental. You go home hoping she didn't really lose them, that she burned them, or ripped them up and ate them. It wasn't that he interjected throughout the poetry reading. It wasn't that he sang country and western over the road until the publican turned the radio up. then came round to my place with Rex and a bottle of whiskey. It wasn't that he harangued me, actually beating his chest whilst screaming, "Great poetry!" and "Beach, you're one of the 3 great poets in this country." It wasn't that he drank half the bottle of whiskey in an hour. It wasn't that he tried out a rugby tackle on me. Xavier, old boys tend to do that when they're stinking. It wasn't that I soberly observed that I'd had enough, agreeing with Rex that he was too drunk to drive. It wasn't that he adopted a comatose attitude when I spoke to him sharply. Drunks retain a certain cunning. It wasn't that I dreamt that he was shouting, "Fire! Fire!" It wasn't that I woke to a smoke-filled house and a drunk with a hose in my lounge. It wasn't that I carried blazing newspaper out while he stood in the backyard congratulating me on being alive. It wasn't that he left me in a blackened house shouting at me, "I promised to pay half, didn't I?" It wasn't that he rang up and offered to pay a third. It was that when I carried out the blazing fire, he asked me if I had a light. And I'll finish one from Magpad. I wrote this for, I was asked to do this for a poster for a piece, and they sent it back. The International Year of Peas. I'm highly qualified to talk about peas. Grew up next door to Watties, the greatest canner of peas in the Southern Hemisphere. But what I remember is tomato sauce, a dark red smell all over town, from the factory to the war memorial, while peas bumped illegally down side streets with all the grace of an overweight dropping peas at every bump, vines of peas, kids racing off with armfuls of peas, green peas, neat innocent pods teaching the moon not to bite its fingernails, peas of mind, ease of wind.
Why don't you stay another night?
Oh,
Sure.
I haven't got very much money.
Oh, that's all right. You won't worry about that.
I've got enough to get back on the bus.
Okay, we'll stay another night.
We'll see.
I'll feed you.
I just want to ask you a couple of questions first. Poetry, Eric, you've had a lifetime in poetry. You are a poet. In this world, it's so modern and seem out of control. What is the role? What are we doing? What are we giving to the world?
Well, it's very confusing, isn't it? I mean, it's because it's been archaic since I was born, the idea of being a poet. You know, I'm amazed there's so many poets. It comes in waves, you know. Sometimes there's really, you know, sometimes there's big popularity waves and everyone in Sydney is going to poetry readings, so everyone in Melbourne does, or there's slams going in America, so people start them here and pretend it's...
Always had a pretty strong connection to music.
New Zealand, when I was growing up, it was a lot to do with hanging the folk scene and working with musicians all the time and hopping in there. So that's where I sort of started, and then I met people at university and I finally caught up and went there and failed English 1. Lee over in Sydney, that he did all my blues lines were very slowly. So yeah, I've been dignified with parody. It's too noisy, Melbourne. Things go too fast.
And how do you find it here?
Well, listen, there's nothing, no cars gone past since we've been here. It's good, isn't it? Or one. So it's really good for filming.
How important it is to make a picture in the reader's head?
Incredibly important. I think that's why I love poetry from Japan and China in particular, because they do that. They also make images in different ways too, which is another thing I like about people coming from Eastern poetry, whatever you call it, Japanese.
Oh, you mean that haiku Japanese tradition?
Yeah, because they make their words out of pictures. They make poems out of pictures too, in a sense, you know, like it just takes your mind, gives you another shift, you know, like, I mean, some English poets like Craig Raine do that, you know, they switch, you know, but, I mean, Shakespeare does it, but in particular, you know, it was Gwen Harwood's fascination, Wittgenstein.
Gwen. Well, I haven't thought of her for a long time. Lovely.
I think of her often, she's a great-hearted woman.
Well, you've known some of the great recent Australian poets.
Yes, by accident, and sometimes we even got drunk together.
Oh, I was in one or two of them, and you certainly all could outdrink me. And I often wondered whether that was to the detriment of my poetic talent.
Of course it was. We ruined you. It wasn't very solemn.
You were not solemn, but I was quite prepared to meet poets who weren't solemn, because I came from down from Canberra, where the first poets I met were Les Murray and Bressenden and...
But when I met you, I was feeling like
you knew how to deliver the poem. You delivered a poem, and there was music, so you were the only poet I'd met at that stage that was really jazzy.
Yeah, well, I had a big hunger for that. Yeah, I remember you doing Zip Zip, Kerry.
Yeah, good poet, kid.
Love working with musicians, and I find that after a while we get the hang of it, you know. And I worked, I mean, one of my favourite musicians I've worked with, won't mention his name, but he has Tourette's, but that was just by the way. Like the ticks and the explosions and everything, I mean, it's just part of his playing. And he said to me once, you know, we're in this band together, 3 well-dressed poets and 2 serious musicians. And
good title.
And he said, well, I feel better, you know, like when I'm working with you, like, you know, because all the poets were off the wall. The other musician was a double bass player from the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra. But you see, I was introduced to them by Bob Settergreen, who was I don't know, I always worked with younger musicians. You know, when I first worked with him, he had his son in the band, you know, Blues on the Boil. And
well, that whole set, Brian Brown, Bob Settergreen, Judy Jacques. You worked with Judy Jacques, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yes. You remember that time you did that thing at Castro's where Pio and Savia sort of ruined it by brutally interjecting for some reason?
Oh, that's another story altogether, the Pio story, but I'm sure
that he was in bad form that night. But,
that night? I think it'd be interesting to know the process that happens when you know you've got a poem happening.
I'm not good at this. I remember Judith Rodriguez did this thing once where she wanted everyone to get their poems and all the rewrites and all those rewrites, and I looked at my desk at the time, which had bits of, but I couldn't give her these bits of this poem because there's bits of another poem on the same page and everything else, and notes to me about paying the bills, and it's sort of like it's all, I'm very scattered, but then I like it focused. So when it comes out, there it is, and that's you don't have to say any more. You don't explain. You don't bloody introduce it, or you know, it's just there.
Now, when you say wake up in the morning here in Minyip, you know,
or the afternoon.
You have you got a project you're working on, an ongoing manuscript?
I just have books that I should get out.
How do you mean books you should get out?
Well, they're already there.
So finished manuscripts,
yeah,
like a pile of them.
No, I sort of make feeble attempts every now and then. I'm not competing with the Angels.
No, writing for them.
I'm competing with, except those poets who are long dead that I think are great. I'm competing with Beyond, you know.
No, I didn't.
I'm competing with Shakespeare, with John Donne.
Poetry is a marketless art form in a sense, almost a non-commercial art form.
So we have to go back to being street poets again, it's come down to that.
Whether we have to go back or go forward to it, I'm wondering if that non-commerciality is a freedom?
No, I think you're better off when you're going down to the hangings at Tyburn and you're writing your pamphlets about the people who are just about to be swung, because you sold it. And when the printers came out and you could print it out, you could sell 300 copies on the day of the swinging. It's there everywhere, you know. You go around to Kerry Scuffins and she says, "Keep the faith, Eric, keep the faith." Well, that's the Irish way of saying it, but I think that's really deep in everyone's heart, and everyone writes about it, you know. You can read a Ray Bradbury wonderful story where he says it's about America and everything's stuffed, and it's because they've got no poets left. They've got all these other things, but they're short of poets. There's none left, there's no poets. I read that when I was a kid, and I think it really moved me. And
does the particular political situation in the world, i.e. climate change, does that figure much in your thoughts, in your writing?
On this cold day in Minyip. No, I don't know. Because it figures in my thoughts, but it's like when the Vietnam War was on, I wrote all these poems that I didn't think any of them were any good. I finally got one published in the Age that was good, but
political poems.
But it's very difficult. I mean, it's only you somehow have to get it in here where someone will publish it, but everyone knows what it's about. You know, so so sermons don't work. You have to, and I guess I'm a dead set left winger, red under the bed sort of a person, but you won't get published in the Age unless. And yet, you know, I mean, the poem I got published here in the middle of the Vietnam War is, it just ends up, you know, the Americans waiting for the bombs yet to be dropped. And it seems to be still going on. Wombats wooing. He lumbers after her in a great circle. They hold firm like buttresses. Arch night to hold up vaulting desire, she pauses, he pauses, crescent handle, reels them in, shouldering a far range, and roundabout ritual, eye side of her head she centres, no neck between earth and sky, found and found, blocking in hill and cave and beast and love. Forgive his affair. Your new kitchen gleams like an apology. New windows, she can see down to the creek. They've cleared the blackberries, now wombats can't rid themselves of ticks and die. She recalls big claws unravelling wool, his golden head seeking her armpit. Then he trundles into the afterglow of New Year's Eve to be de-ticked. She pushes his broad head across her floor. In their old game, when she wakes, great runes through Paco. I try to include the car. But afterwards.
No cars going by when we're talking and cars going by when we're recording.
Yeah.
But that's a beautiful book.
It is, yes, it is the Wombats.
Yeah.
That's Raphael Torreson.
Mm. Now the wombat next to you there, what's special about that?
Well, that's Arthur's wombat. He makes all kinds of creatures. He's been doing it for years. St Kilda Market. Anyway, it was just friends of mine. They loved the poem and I got the wombat.
If we can be a little political, Eric, poets are often renowned to be a bit rapscallion and a bit radical and a bit wild. Is it part of the poet's persona to be that?
Yeah, some of them are really fascist. I mean, they are. I mean, you know, some of them are really right wing, and so it's not the poetry that makes the sermon. You know, like I don't know. I mean, I have been involved in sort of doing sort of agitprop stuff, doing poems, service for a cause, and I suppose that is propaganda. You know, but was something I believed in. That yeah, I don't know how. Poetry is it's like a tree, isn't it? You know, you watch it grow, and you can't, or you can't push the river. You can't make the tree grow. So a good poem is made from a long time, I suppose. I mean, you know, you like Robert Frost as well as Popper from Czechoslovakia or Miroslav Holub. I mean, sometimes it's just the poet taking an angle that is different from everyone else's, or people haven't looked at things from that angle before. And
let me say some names and just get your reaction. Evgeny Evtushenko.
Oh, you know, he's a gangster. Wore sunglasses.
Vladimir Mayakovsky.
Well, he had his way. He was a bit of a true believer, so he killed himself, which is the greatest, saddest thing, isn't it? But, okay. You know, big blouse and trousers. I don't know. He was good though. He was really full of energy. You know, so I loved some of his poems and that steppe poetry stuff. But some of it was horrible for Stalin. He wrote it. You know, then he killed himself.
Rambo.
Yeah, Rambo. I can see all the fascination and why painters love him, and you know, and the story of him. You know. But, you know, okay, I didn't model myself on him or I'd be dead of gangrene.
Jas H. Duke.
He was a friend of mine. Very unusual talent, the way he could hold a crowd. I mean, I think Pio first came across him in a theatre. He heard him doing sound poetry, he just heard the voice. And tracked the voice into the theatre, you know, that old theatre in Page Street.
Walt Whitman.
Well, the man of every man, yeah, he was fascinating when I was a teenager, but it goes along with Tennyson. I mean, a bit floral.
Okay, let's get a bit closer to home and, okay, Les Murray.
Oh, he's great. I read him when I first came over here from New Zealand. The Vernacular Republic, was it? Or probably. Anyway, I thought, great. And have ever since.
Rosemary Dobson.
Not very interested. Because that whole series of people who painted paintings and no, not particularly interested.
Okay. Shelton Lee.
Never heard of it.
Well, in my mind...
Well, I mean, the best poem that was written to Shelton, I think, was written for him. And it's this low concrete wall years ago that I came across. It said, Shelton, I adore you. And someone had written right along the footpath, about an inch from the footpath, get off your knees.
Any of the young poets of today that you know, that you like? Let me mention some names. Oh, well, she's not a young poet. She's a very accomplished poet. Lauren Williams.
Oh, she's great. She's an old fart. She's the sexy schoolmarm of Australian poetry. No, she's great. But
well, now you know she's having a music career.
I wish she'd get off the country and western.
Why?
All the rest was okay.
Don't you like country and western?
Yeah, I like it.
You think it's not capable of great poetry?
Oh, yeah, anything is. Theoretically, my auntie loves country and western.
Are you...
I'll listen to Johnny Cash, but Lauren Williams, Johnny Cash, she ain't. Oh, Patsy Cline.
Oh, you
but
make
she's
me laugh?
really good, though. See, I used to go and hear her sing blues years ago, and she managed that really well. And then rap, and she just worked at it, you know, she just whatever she's enthused about. Anyway, yeah, I love her poetry.
Okay, Ian McBride.
Bit limited.
Geordie Elberston.
Bit interesting.
Let's see, because these are people I know who love you. In the main, Jennifer Harrison.
Well, they're all happening now.
Early days of poetry for us in Melbourne, and for me at least, there's a connection you and I had with the Outpost Inn up the top end of Collins Street there near the old near the Melbourne Club. Yep. It was a folk establishment run by some Catholic order, but it was not Catholic in that sense because the folk went through the 50s, through the 60s at that place. But when I got there, it was the end of the folk boom, and I met people like Margaret Roadnight there, and you went there.
Yeah, and she was there first night I went there, and I didn't know her from Adam or Eve. And I'm just sitting there with 6 or 8 people, and she's singing Kingston Town. I remember it was the first one she sang, but anyway, I just was thrilled, and she's a great singer. And, it was just like the folk clubs in New Zealand where no one was famous unless you heard the rumour. and relaxed and very small and intimate, and poetry arose out of folk clubs in New Zealand too, and was a way of joining people. And some musicians I know now, generations later, are saying to me and my nephew's books over in New Zealand how they came to becoming rap singers and playing guitar because they went with their father to the poetry readings. So, you know, there's that connection that's really strong, and it's gone on for generations, and I glory in that.
Eric, if you would you say that you're confident of the culture you live in, that you think it's going to go on? And
well, basically I argue with it in Minyip. I go around to Tanks and he says, I want to kill all the Muslims.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Tank, some of them are all right. Well, if I brought one round, you wouldn't, would you?
Well, here you are, Eric, as you said, a dyed-in-a-wool red ragger, and you're living in probably the safest Liberal national seat in the nation.
Country.
You're in the middle of enemy territory. Now, doesn't that sort of ring a bell with something of your early writing?
Yeah, in occupied territory. Well, you have a memory.
No,
that was thinking about Brisbane in the days of Jelky Peterson.
Quite right, a horrible time. Matter of fact, poor Tom Kelly was the editor of El Semper and was beaten senseless by the police during Jelky Peterson's time, and that preceded his escape to Melbourne. But your book, In Occupied Territories, always haunted me. One of the reasons I've come to see you, because here you are. You're in occupied territory here in Minyip. How are you doing it?
Oh, no, I had friends not talk to me for a year when I told them I was a greenie. But that's all right.
Good morning, you're tuned to 3CR and you're listening to the Spoken Word program. My name is Carmen Main, and today I have a real treat, a pre-record of a wonderful poet, Eric Beach. It's a live recording from the Dan O'Connell Poetry Sessions. Eric Beach was born in New Zealand in 1947 and moved to Australia in 1972. He is widely respected in the Australian poetry community, publishing several collections throughout the 70s, and in 1977 was co-founder of the Melbourne Poets Union. His 1996 Weeping for Lost Babylon received critical acclaim and won the Dinny O'Hearn Poetry Prize and was the joint winner of the Kenneth Slessor Prize. This particular recording of Eric Beach was made at the Dan O'Connell Hotel on Saturday the 22nd of December last year. And thank you so much to Brendan Bonsack for putting this together, for recording and editing this beautiful piece of work. So, without further ado, can I introduce you to Eric Beach, live at the Dan O'Connell.
I'm fortunate to have Lauren Williams here. We did a show at Wharf Theatre, Call It Poetry, tonight with a whole lot of other poets. I'm learning Tai Chi, just in case I ever get attacked in slow motion. And then, to go inside mountain, believe that mist will pass, that mountain will remain, that rock is mist. Try to drink rock. Now we have Lauren Williams singing You Can Talk.
This was actually in that show, Call It Poetry, and it was a poem of Eric Beech's set to music by Jenny, what am I calling, I'm getting very formal, Jenny Sheard, who's a Sydney jazz musician. To my shame, this is the only one of Eric's songs that I have in my memory at short notice to do, otherwise I've got another two that I promised to do. Next time we have the Eric Fest, which should be at least an annual event, okay? Definitely. All right, this is... Now That There's Too Many Love Songs by Eric Beech and Jenny Sheard. Now that there's too many love songs, all I can think of is you. So many people been done wrong, believe that the sky will turn blue. Can a minute last an hour? Can a flower sting a bee? Has a lover any power? Can a cannon shell a pea? Now that my heart has been broken, all I can hear is the clock. Sent you the hands as a token. Believe if I wait that you'll knock. Can a minute last an hour? Can a flower sting a bee? Has a lover any power? Can a cannon shell a pea? I know there's too many sad songs, there's a blues in every hue. Too bad so many been done wrong, assistant librarian dues. Can a minute last an hour? Can a flower sting a bee? Has a lover any power? Can a cannon shell a pea?
I got bashed up in Minyip just before I came here, so I missed the reading I was supposed to do in Footscray. So I brought this poem down because it's about Footscray. In Footscray without the blues. In the abattoir the work's been cut, the pubs are shut, a sluice of cars, the cars full, the drivers loaded, leave houses jagged in their lights, like bottles smashed in all-out fights, and leave us stuck with the working life, dirty jobs and ungrateful brats, and nights when man and wife in an unsleeping lie stare at a war that neither understands, the kids they never taught to steal, the fuck they hope the other feels. Some compassion in the brief encounter, she tries to kiss him as he mounts her, and he kisses her if he remembers. All he's seen today a sheep dismembered. He's bone tired, his nerves are hopping. She's cleaning the house and doing the shopping for tomorrow in her head. While he tells her what the foreman said, she says he's right, but guardedly, being right won't buy no groceries. She loves them all, the last to sleep. Her ass gives her the screaming creeps. Boys unemployed, girls bent, not curved. Some live on their money, some on their nerves.
You've been listening to the Spoken Word program on 3CR. My name's Carmen, and today we had Eric Beach live at the Dan O'Connell.
I think I'll start with Eric's here. He's got his little brown paper bag. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Eric Beach.
It's good to see some Lovetts on the wall. You know the Lovetts? Good to see them. We're going to do this one because I'm going his way because he's been nice to me. There's no old man in jazz. Well, some musos go electric. When we play, it's a gas. You can't try to be eccentric. You only got what you have. You're living on the offbeat, taking it as it is. Yeah, there's no old man. There's no old man. There's no old man in jazz. People smoking, drinking, talking, kayaking. It's a razz. People dance and think they're walking. It's an ease the music has. It's Brilliantine and Valentine's and Drake coat, crate shoes, crazy ass. Yeah, there's no old men. There's no old man. There's no old man in jazz. Long, blonde lady, 40s, movie, genuine, silver, hip, flies, cool, man, hot, man, lukewarm, groovy, dig it, bury it, inter it, do-da, 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 mama, baby! Yeah, there's no old man, there's no old man, there's no old man in jazz.